Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm just starting to talk a little bit early because I know it takes a few minutes for these events to get going. And we're all very experienced, I think, now in Zoom and Microsoft Teams and so on. So it will be great to give everybody a chance to get into the virtual conference room. Today we have a really hot topic, I think. Every time I pick up the newspaper or look at a professional journal, there is some conversation about artificial intelligence, about ChatGPT or about Google Bard and so on. And every day I think it's changing and developing very fast. So it's very appropriate, I think, that we have this particular topic today as one of our series of webinars that we've been running. The webinars are put together by a research and development committee of our membership. So all of you who are members of the EADL have the opportunity to flag up the topics that are important to you or things that you'd like to discuss or hear about. So I would encourage you to do that if you're already a member. And of course, if you're not a member, then I'm encouraging you to come and join us because the more people in our family, the greater the opportunity for the exchange of information and knowledge. So it would be great to have you all here. I'm also have the lucky slot to give you a little bit of advance warning of a few other things that we're involved in. EADL has an open webinar at the OEB in Berlin on the 22nd of November, and that's on the use of data in education. Again, a topic I think that we all need to know more about. So please come and join us at OEB in Berlin on the 22nd of November. And then next year, we have our annual conference, which will be on the 23rd and 24th of May in Prague. And we're currently putting the program together for that. And I'm sure that this topic will be one of the ones that will have a thread through the theme of the conference. So I hope many of you who are listening and who are joining us today will be able to come along and help us with that conference and indeed be participants. And it would be great to have you all here or there. Excuse me. We have today a couple of speakers. We have Christian Jensen from Copenhagen and Julia Jochen from ILS in Hamburg, both experienced practitioners. My colleague Heinrich Helms, who is one of the key members of our Research and Development Committee, will be doing the introductions. So I'll let him talk a little bit more about them. But Heinrich is also based in Copenhagen and has a keen interest in this particular subject area. One I think that we're all keen to get going. As a little exercise, I don't know if it's going to work. I did a ChatGPT on how to introduce a webinar, and I'm going to put it on the chat now so you can see whether in fact the ChatGPT has done a better job than me in talking about the sort of things that people find interesting. When I've used it a couple of times now, I've found it absolutely fascinating to see what comes back, and I can see that it's got pros and cons, and I think that's the sort of thing that we're going to explore today. So without any further ado, I think I'll hand over to Henrik to take us on to the next part of the webinar. So a big welcome to you all.
Thank you very much, John. I think all of us are looking very much forward to this event. It's one of the online conferences we have in EADL, and where we take up topics which have interest for the community around distance and flexible learning. And as John said, ChatGPT and artificial intelligence is very much on the agenda right now. And we are very proud to present two great presenters. Christian, as John said, from University College in Copenhagen, who is a researcher and developer in the area, and he has been sort of keynote speaker around for the last time speaking on this topic. And he will be the first presenter, and and he will talk for something like 15, maybe a little bit more minutes, and then we will have give the word to Julia Joachim, who is from the European Fern University in Hamburg, ELS, and she'll I'll introduce her afterwards. In between these two presenters, there will be an opportunity for very short questions, and if you have questions during the presentation, please note them in the chat, and Christos, who is also from the Research and Development Committee, will take care of that, and we'll see to it that you can have answers to the question. Then at the end of the session, which is a short one today, around 1 hour, we'll have a sort of question and answers session. So with that, I'll give the word to Christian Nør Jensen from University College Copenhagen. Please take it away.
Thank you. I'll be sharing my screen now. Yes, I've given this small presentation the name and a disruptor in education, because we can see now that it has done something in the education sector. All of our staff are focusing on this. I'm not sitting on my hands at the moment, because really a lot of people want to know more about this area. So my name is Christian Nør Jensen. I'm a senior consultant here at University College Copenhagen. I'm in a department where we focus on the development of our staff, especially our teachers, and we focus on what does the technology do to the way we teach and the way we do education. That has been my focus for 10 years here in University College Copenhagen. And last December or November, something big happened to our sector. ChatGPT released their ChatGPT tool that became mainstream, and at that moment we could see in our department this was going to change the way we teach and the way we do education. So I have done, my main focus has been on this area from that point on. And the one thing is that we are fortunate with this, that we have data scientists in our department, so we didn't start off at ground zero, but we have learned a lot since then, and we have done a lot. So the two main thing is, how is this changing the educational sector? What has happened, especially in our fields? I reckon that other people can relate to some of the things that we have been through. And especially, and the last thing is the new endeavor, prompting, that's a word that all of us, some of us at least, didn't know what was in November last year. But now we all know the word prompting and prompt engineering and prompt competencies and stuff like that. So the thing is, I'm going to start up with this small study. It's from Minnesota Legal Studies research paper that says, we found that large variation in the effect of AI assistance, with the worst performing students seeing the largest gains and the best performing students seeing declines in performance. So they have found out that the best performing students have seen declines in performance when AI assisted. So that is one study that is out there at the moment. Another study is from Harvard Business School that says across 18 tasks that when you use AI, it enhances the quality of your product. So these are two different research which says they don't say the same thing. So it depends on the context that they're using it in, if you can see if the AI assistance is doing something in your field of expertise. So our approach to this phenomenon was that we could see that we need to learn more about this field. We need to do research and development, and especially development is something that we started off. We need to do regulation. We need to do new governance and stuff like that. So we spent a lot of time developing communication and stuff like that. The other thing that we can see immediately was that there are, especially our written assignments, they couldn't be used anymore. In some areas, we could just start all over in our written assignment, because we could see that people from the streets could go into our exam and actually pass with these kinds of tools in some of our exams, not all of them. We also did a lot of surveys across our university colleges, and we have seen the development in the use of especially ChatGPT from none of the students using it in November, in January, March, 25%, and I'm going to show you some of the studies that we have now. And we're doing a lot of training of our staff, especially our teachers, that can see now it can be a, what do you call it, a potent tool in their toolbox that they can use in their everyday teaching. And we have done quite a few interviews with our students. And that's really important, because our students are using it, but how are they using it? When are they using it? And what is the purpose of their use? So, as you can see here, this is from June, just after the exams in the teachers department. This is a small survey, so we only have about 100 who replied. But it says that half of them are using it in relation to their studies. And as you can see, what are the contexts that they are using it in? They are using it for teaching preparation, for information seeking, but they're also using it for their assignments and for their exam, even though we have a quite strict rule about not using it in exams and assignments. But they are using in this area. If I were to be asked this question, I don't know if I would say that I've been using ChatGPT, because it's seen upon as something that is cheating at the moment. So I don't know how reliable this study is. But when we ask the students, they say unanimously that either I use it myself or I participate in a group where someone does. So it's used across all kinds of disciplines from our students' point of view. They also know that there are good use and there are bad use. They also know that it's really good to take the path of least resistance, and it's really tempting to use it when it's just something you need to complete. We have quite a few busy work assignments, so you just need to do it. Who do you need to do it for? I don't know. You just need to do it. So those kinds of assignments are really damaged, you can say that. And the last thing that is one of the most important, no students know what the educational stance are in this area, so we need to communicate a lot more about how we perceive this phenomenon. So our key findings is that all written assignments are influenced, so we need to take a look in our education and see, go through all the assignments and see how they are influenced, because they are influenced. We also see that all the students are using it in a variety of ways, both before to know the stuff, know the educational material even better, to prepare. During they are asking questions during the everyday teaching, and after they're using it to get feedback. And we have quite a few examples of them using it to get feedback, and some of them perceive this feedback to be even better than the ones that they're getting from the teachers. So it's really also a tool that has been taken, that the educationer has taken into their everyday life. They use it in a variety of ways as well. And but the main thing is that this prompting is easy at first time, but it's quite difficult to master. And we can see from a different kind of workshop that when they get better skills in prompting, they could really be more efficient in the way of using this powerful tool. So when is it cheating and when is it not? That is the first question that we are focusing on, because we can see now that across the sector, in different contexts, we have really discussions about when is it teaching and when is it not. So this one is perceived as cheating, as what you call a missed learning opportunity. So this is from a lab education where they have to do a written assignment on explain and argue for which tissue control would be optimal to include in the daily control of the immune histochemical detection of Ki-17. Provide a concrete example of suitable tissue material. This question you can come from the street and go into the exam and ask and actually pass the exam. So that's that's a good example of a use that we see as something that is not good in our educational setting. The other thing you can see is opportunity to be included in the learning experience. So this one is in Danish, so I'm going to translate a little bit about it. It's a guy who says that this has included me in the education. I have used ChatGPT a lot, and I'm dyslexic, and I'm actually writing a book at the moment because now I have the ability to write a book. So this has given me a really powerful tool, almost a crutch, to even the playing field in the educational settings. So that's then an opportunity for learning, we regard this as. So there are quite a few gray zone areas where we can either see this as a learning opportunity or we can see this as a missed learning opportunity. And we are mapping all kinds of learning activities and discussing whether or not it's an opportunity or not an opportunity. The other key question is that we're focusing on: how can we use this technology to create even better education for our students? And we'll talk about that. The phenomenon prompting is what we are focusing on. How can we give our teachers and maybe also our students the confidence to use it in the right way? And we have created something called a circle. And I'm going to. So we always say, play with it, get to know it, ask weird questions, and see how it's working. Then we say, test it in an educational setting and see how it works, and use it. Try to use it in a specific area, and reflect upon how you use it. That's the thing we want our teachers to do. So the thing is that the skills that you need to have is language comprehension. You need to know language, how it is constructed, when is it good, and just beneath that you need to know recognize this genre that you're in. What is the difference between this and this genre? And you can, and when you know this, you have the skill to get the output that you want to. The other thing is hermeneutic dialogue. You need to keep on dialoguing with the machine until you get the results that you want. Because often our teachers try it out and they get disappointed because they don't get the feedback that they want immediately. So they need to be more stress the technology even more to get better results. And the one thing is that as an education, you have prior knowledge, you know stuff, so you can evaluate, you can judge, you can see when the output is actually useful. The other thing is you need to be creative in your input. You need to ask it weird questions and get it into it, because we've seen that in our teachers, if they do it the same way, they often get the same results. So they need to also be creative in the way they input it. They need to know how to validate the output. Fortunately, our teachers and professors are quite good in their areas, so they know how to validate. But our students, they don't have the same skills to validate what the output is. And the last but not least, they have to have insight into technologies. They need to know where are the limitations and what are the opportunities. So I've been talking for 18 minutes now, and there's a lot of areas that you can use it. And these are only a few of the areas you can use it. For instance, we now get Bing in our department, so now it's going to be okay to use it to get feedback, to put your student production in Bing and get feedback from the AI. That's a new area we're experiencing. And also it's really good at retrieval. If you know stuff but you can't remember how it is, it's really good in retrieval practice, and we can see that across it's really efficient. We do a lot of what you call templates, and when you use those templates you get a lot of learning materials that you can use the day after, both quizzes, cases, exam questions, questions in general, and stuff like that. We use these templates to enhance the learning material that we are creating. So last but not least, this one is one of the most important figures that I have. When you want to use it, start off using. Does it matter if the output is true? If it doesn't matter in the setting you're in, then it's safe to use. But if it's important that the output is true, do you have the expertise to verify that the output is accurate? Most of our teachers has the expertise to do that. So when they see the output, they can then ask themselves the question, are you able and willing to take full responsibility, legal, moral, etc., for missed inaccuracies? And if you are able and willing to do that, then we say to the students, the teachers, then it's possible for you to use ChatGPT in the right way. So that was some of the points that I have today. I hope you have a lot of questions about this area. We have done a lot of exam change. We have done a lot of change in our learning design and stuff like that because of the new potent tool that we have at the moment. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Yep. Thank you, Christian. And right now maybe we have a single question. No, not right now. But I would like to ask you, saying that the prompt engineering is a sort of key qualification now, how do you train not students, but teachers to train students to develop these competences?
So how do I train teachers to involve students in creating those competencies?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't expect a complete answer, but just some ideas.
Yeah, the thing is that the area that we have where we've done it a lot with the students are in the what you call it in the bureaucracy development, the administration department that we have at the moment. We teach administrators that and we have done a lot with those kinds because we can see it at the field that they are going into. They are using it a lot at the moment, but do they have focus on the law? Do they know the ethics? And all those kinds of questions when using it. So these kinds of focus areas we talk a lot with the students about.
Thank you. And along the same line, Ted Bailey is asking, is prompt training just for educators or for students as well? And you somehow has answered that question already.
But at the moment, it's mostly for our educational staff because we can see that they aren't learning it by themselves, whereas the students, they are gaining these skills without us knowing it.
So has any of the outcomes of your research led to changes in the course design you have?
Yeah, a lot, especially in the health department, because we could see that that in this area it was quite an efficient tool to be using for cheating. So we have done small adjustments, incremental adjustments, but we have also seen that I think it's 5 big exams that we need to change entirely. And when we change an exam entirely, then it has a big influence on the way you teach. And fortunately, we don't need to do it to the exam in next year, but the winter exam in 20 next year, it's going to be in that way, because we can see that the exam weren't efficient enough anymore.
Thank you, Christian. I think we'll leave the rest of the questions for the latter session. So I'll ask Julia to come forward.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much.
Yes, hello, Julia. And as I said, you come from Hamburg Fernuniversität or something, Hamburg Fernhochschule.
Exactly, EURFA, University of Applied Sciences.
Yeah, okay. So it's a kind of the same institution as Christian comes from. And you are sort of a program manager and taking care of developments and so on. And I think you will focus more on the sort of organizational issues and the reception among staff and students for
Yeah, that's
AI.
correct.
So please take it away.
Yes, thank you very much, Niels. So my area of expertise is I had the digital media team at EuroFH in Germany. And so the subject of ChatGPT kind of fell into my lap last December. And we've been working very extensively on how we are going to incorporate ChatGPT into our teaching and examination practice. And basically, at the moment, I'm focusing very much on how we are going to solve the problem of doing exams. Because basically the slogan was "say goodbye to term papers." Do we actually have to change everything about how we test and examine students? Because as was already said, large language models endanger fair testing. Everyone is under pressure. I've just seen it at a couple of conventions, basically, and conferences, that everyone is struggling to adapt to the new technology, and that everyone is looking for some sort of solution to find ways of using AI, also teaching students about AI, and also to ensure a fair and transparent examination system of some sort. So we've been trying to involve both our staff and our students into the development of a new system. So we had a kind of a mixed method approach. We asked both the students and the teaching staff what they thought. And basically, we've been having 4 separate parts in our study. We had an online barcamp testing in the era of ChatGPT that was in February with 80 participants from all over Germany working in higher education. We did 2 standardized surveys with our students and with our teaching staff. And we also did 4 online workshops with students and teachers to find out how they felt about ChatGPT, what they wanted from us as an institution, what they wanted for exams, and how they wanted to use AI or not use it. Actually, there were quite a few who didn't really want to use it. So I'll just show you some of the results, and then I'll go more in depth into the whole question of new exam formats, because that's what I'm at the moment struggling with. So basically, we asked students first, what statement do you most agree with? Should students be forbidden to use technologies such as ChatGPT, or should it be allowed? Or should it be allowed and also feature in curricula and teaching? And we can see both students and teaching staff are actually a bit apart here. I was actually quite surprised about that, because usually it's the teachers who have to force to do something digital in their teaching. So, but here they show themselves to be quite open towards that sort of technology. And we also asked them what they wanted in terms of exams, and we can see that about 45% of students and 40% of teachers actually wanted exams designed in a way that AI cannot help them. 25% wanted it to integrate exams, to integrate AI, but also to require students' own work, and the rest of them was looking for a mix of both. So basically, we're looking at a very diverse opinion here. And we also found some needs. Basically, all the students, or a lot of students were claiming for training. They said, well, if we will have to use this in the future, we will have to use this for work, maybe for studying as well. We want to be trained how to use it well and safely at all. And they also wanted us to integrate it in teaching and exams. There were quite a lot of people who said this is relevant for the future. This has to feature in our course and not just like in one seminar. It has to be integrated throughout. They were also clamoring for rules. Basically, a lot of students said, you know, I don't want to run foul of the rules, but I want to know what they are. So you have to give us some kind of framework to work in, so we know here I can use it, here I can't, because I really don't want to do anything that I'm not allowed to. But we're kind of at a loose end here at the moment. There were also some people asking for a ban, but that's something we've already thrown overboard because we don't really think it's possible at all. And we also had the teachers asking for training. So we're already reacting to that. We have put out some rules for our students to actually kind of outline what sort of usage is okay, what is not. We are also in the process of planning some trainings for both students and teachers. And we are also working on the exam question. And this is what I want to look at with you, because we had quite a lot of suggestions from all the surveys and the bar camps and the workshops about possible exam types. And so I had this huge mountain of formats, and I started thinking, okay, so but what do I do with this? And then I started evaluating them both from a didactic viewpoint and also from practical considerations, because there's a lot of things there which I think are really cool, but the problem is you have to kind of incorporate that somehow, and that might not actually work. So we had basically 4 groups: supervised or monitored exams, which means written exams or oral exams. And also there was often the suggestion of having a combined exam, which means written paper and then an oral defense or presentation. So you actually have to kind of understand what you've been writing about. Then we had the adapted questions, which was basically adapt term paper questions and thesis questions to be focused on practical application, to use cases. One idea was let people write fictional research proposals, focus on the research and the analytical work, get them to document their process, use reflection and stuff like that. Then there was one group, AI integration. So basically there were basically 2 main categories here: evaluation of AI output and AI skills as the subject of the exam. Evaluation was meant like we give them something AI has created and let them check it against the current research, let them see whether there's anything they can find to actually contradict this, and so on and so forth. And the AI skills as a subject, they were actually thinking of people actually using AI such as ChatGPT to actually answer the exam questions. And then we had a couple of new formats: collaborative and group exams, experiments, assessment centers, portfolios for formative exams, videos, and so on. So that was a bit of all the rest basically being lumped together here. So I started looking at these and wondering what does actually work. I mean, obviously written exams, they've been around for quite a long time, but at least in Germany, we don't really feel that they're doing very much from a didactic viewpoint, because they focus on remembering and understanding. In German, we call this bulimia learning. So basically you kind of cram it all in, then you spit it out for the exam and you forget about it. And also it does not teach academic work as such. So it's not really the thing we really want in the long run. So basically, from a didactic viewpoint, it's not ideal. Written exams obviously are easy to realize. And with oral or combined exams, I just thought that they were a really big administrative challenge, obviously, because it's just a big difference if you can have a written exam for like 1,000 people or whether you have to test them orally one by one. So I didn't really think that that was the solution. I looked at the adapted questions as well. Obviously, if you look at the learning taxonomy here, you actually get a lot more opportunities to have people applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating. So basically, there's a lot of room to work with here. But also, we have to admit AI use is not impossible even for adapted questions that focus on practical application or something like that. You can still delegate at least part of what you're doing to AI. And also, from a practical viewpoint, I just thought that basically they will require constant adaptation because AI improves. I think it's a race we must lose because even now it's not even been a year ever since ChatGPT came out, and it's already at a point where it's improved a lot, and a lot of things that weren't possible in November are possible now. So I'm thinking this will probably be requiring a lot of resources. As far as AI integration goes, this obviously offers a lot of opportunities on a didactic level. Basically, you can do anything on the learning taxonomy here. And it also allows you the teaching of AI skills. Obviously, they will require a lot of resources as well as teaching and administrative level. And it will also require constant adaptation, although I have a feeling that since you're working with AI here instead of against it, the adaptation will probably not be quite as laborious as when you're constantly trying to trick AI, basically. And as for the new formats, obviously they offer a very wide range of possibilities on the didactic scale. They don't really prevent the use of AI reliably. And there's also a possibility of unfair grading or a shifted focus. Basically, for instance, if we ask students to make videos for their exams, I mean, video is one of the things I do a lot. So my first idea is, oh yes, that's cool. But on the other hand, basically, we're grading people on something that's not really part of their course because their course is business studies or whatever and not working with video software. So we're basically shifting the focus unfairly to something that shouldn't really impact their grade. Also, on the practical level, it requires a lot of resources. They have to be implemented, they have to be tested, they have to be distributed across the whole university. And the last point has actually been ended up on this slide. It shouldn't. Yeah, so basically all of these have sort of good points, they have shortcomings. So basically after all this, I came up with the result that there's no really easy solution. There's not like one exam type where I can just go to the exam department in our university and tell them, yeah, let's do this, then we're in the clear, then we're done. And also we'll probably have no permanent solution available. Even if we get started with something now, it's probably not going to help us in the long run. We'll probably be facing an ongoing process of adaptation in this whole business. Whatever we do now might be totally out of the window in 2 years' time. So basically, we as a university are now approaching things on the basis of what I have worked out now with my colleagues. And we'll be looking at doing some of the new exam formats, like, for instance, AI integration. I don't know where that will lead us. But I mean, one thing is for sure, I think that this is a very important part of the whole thing, because I've just brought you here some quotations from students from our surveys. And they underlined the general sentiment that AI is here to stay. It will play an important role in professional life, and that higher education institutions are called upon to teach the skills to use them. So it's really something we cannot escape. And yeah, basically we are working on that, and hopefully I will have given you some input to start working with that as well. Okay.
Different questions. One is asking whether this is hindering and restraining the ability to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills. In what's your opinion on that?
Well, I think there is a threat. Obviously there is. I mean, and that's just basically the task that we have now as a university or as a education provider to actually design our courses and our exams in a way that this actually isn't impacted. We have to find ways of testing student skills where they actually have to have these abilities. So that's why probably some of our well-tested old exams where people have just to kind of regurgitate knowledge for a written or oral exam will just be basically over. So we will have to think of ways of testing people in a way that they actually have to demonstrate these abilities to think critically and to problem solve.
Yeah, thank you so much. Some are raising the question, and that is also to question, what about copyright issues? Do we have a problem here?
Well, I mean, obviously I'm not a lawyer, but I've been speaking to people from that field, and it seems to be that at the moment the experts are saying that ChatGPT is obviously not human and only humans can acquire any sort of copyright. So we're in the clear in that respect. But obviously it's worrying if people just delegate all their writing to the to AI such as ChatGPT. But on the other hand, I mean, it's something I'm very conflicted about, because we were just talking about this subject yesterday, and somebody said, well, does it actually bother us if people let ChatGPT write their written stuff? Because maybe in 10 years' time, it will be totally normal to do that. And it will be totally accepted to do that, even in academic work. People will say, yes, I'm concentrating on the actual research, on actually creating something new. And I'll delegate that boring task of formulating it, of honing it to a machine, because why should I bother with that? So I think it's really something we have to watch, how basically our whole way of working is changing over the next years, because I think it will. And I mean, I actually use it to write some stuff that I would otherwise have taken hours for, and it's just faster basically. So, and that's just a question.
GDPR, we talk a lot about GDPR, and we talk a lot about the AI Act that is coming next year. And we just recently got Bing, so we need to focus on if we have if GDPR compliance, then it's a whole new world that we have in the educational sector, because then it's not seen upon as something that is cheating and is being used at home, and that's really a new reality for the educational department for us.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, and yeah, I don't think anyone knows where it leads us actually at the moment.
But the whole educational sector is placed in the new AI Act as something in a gray zone, because they see that it would be really weird if in the future computers will be the main thing that is training us, that is giving us education. So they are really considering, regulating the way it's used in educational settings.
Well, I don't know whether computers will be training us, but I'm just thinking of, I've forgotten the name of the scientist, he's from New Zealand, who said, if we're training students to do a job that the computer can do, we're training them wrong. So basically, if ChatGPT or other AI is capable of doing certain tasks or jobs in the future, then why would we train students to do these jobs? Because they can't possibly compete. So basically what we have to train them for is tasks that computers can't do. And basically it might actually free up resources as well, because we can delegate boring mundane tasks to AI. We'll, for instance, researchers, they will have more time to actually focus on their research instead of doing like boring literature reviews or stuff that people really don't want to do. But so I'm pretty much taking a look for. I'm more for looking forward and see how can we use this, because I mean we're not getting the genie back into the bottle. I mean that much is for sure. I think it's here. It's here to stay, and we'll have to work with it somehow. And I think it's just not going to work to try and ignore it.
Agree.
But don't you think that this is sort of redefining the relationship between, what to say, machine and man, or woman for that case? So it's a new way to interact machine, human being, and so on. And that's right now we have some issues. How do we cope with examination and so on? But if we have a whole new system where we have a new relationship between man and machine, I think we have greater challenges than that. But the other thing is easier to cope with in some ways.
Absolutely, I think so. I don't know what Christian thinks about that, but I think it's bigger. It's bigger than finding a way of how to do exams. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
But Klaus has raised a question about the co-pilot thing that is on the market at the moment, but hasn't hit the education sector yet. That is going to be a game changer as well.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's already been some months, I think, when Microsoft said that it might be integrated in all Office applications, for instance. So basically, who would be writing letters if ChatGPT is available within Office Word, basically? So
it makes you
gives a
skeptical
totally
of
new
different ways of communicating. I mean, love letters and so on. What's the authenticity of that if it's written by not by her or him, but by her or him and the machine? But well, we have to be able to cope with that. So
definitely.
I have a funny example from one of the students' interview. He says he used it to analyze his own Tinder's interactions. So he put the Tinder interactions in the ChatGPT, and he gets feedback when he's communicating the right way, when is it going all wrong. And he says it's tough feedback, but it's good feedback.
So does he take ChatGPT when he's going on a date as well then?
Oh no, I haven't talked about him.
No, I'm just joking. But I mean, yeah. Well, hopefully he'll be able to kind of cope without ChatGPT when he's actually meeting the woman. But well, it's one way of using it.
If we go back to Ted Bailey is asking how do we actually use AI to validate the products of the students? Well, now the students are using AI to produce things, but there's also, I know that there are already some products out there which you can use to check whether this had been written by AI or not, and so on. And some of them are better than others, but do you have some practical tips on that?
Yeah, all the AI detection tools, they're not entirely certain. So if they don't know for sure that this is written by AI, then we have a problem, because then we'll be saying to students that we have a 84% chance that you have been using it. What is that? And you can't use that. So it's in a moral way, we are not using those kinds of detection tools at the moment.
Interesting.
And I don't see a future where we have these kinds of tools. I see a future when we do exam in. So the students needs to know how to validate the output, and that is the essential skill for almost all of us students, to actually validate what is the output. Is it true? In what sentence is it true? Where is it true? In what context isn't it true? And stuff like that. So that is a main skill to do in the future, to actually validate the output.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, I mean, it's the same for us.
Yeah.
We don't use these tools. And I mean, actually, ChatGPT had a detection tool, ChatGPT 0, and they withdrew it very quietly, I think in July, because it didn't work. So, and it's the same as for us, Christian. Basically, if the tool says, well, 90% possibility, then any lawyer will say, well, 90% is not 100. So you can't actually fail my client because you don't have any proof. So I don't think this is going to lead anywhere.
Moving from that practical part, how do you see the role of management and so on? How do you see this as a strategic challenge for the institution? How do they communicate a policy on this? There are different questions on that in that area as well.
Yeah, at the moment we all across the sector, both in universities in Denmark and they communicate a lot about the exams. When is it cheating? When is it not? But I haven't seen anyone communicating from when is it the usage good? They always communicate when is it bad. So at the moment we are working on creating guidelines for the good use of AI, but it's really difficult to create those kinds of guidelines because it's the context is determining whether or not it's bad or good use. So it's quite difficult to have a organizational view on that issue.
Yeah, it's the same for us. I mean, we've put out some guidelines, I think, in July, but they are mainly about when not to use it. But we've also tried to incorporate some information on when to use it, where it's allowed to use it, and also how it works, basically. So they're quite long, as a matter of fact. And it's also like giving students some pointers on where to look, on how to use it. And we want to follow it up with some training sessions for both students and teachers. And we also want to create a web-based training about digital literacy, which also incorporates AI, to actually teach students some skills around the digital world, and hopefully do some live sessions as well. Because when I was in the online workshops with the students, I really noticed how much they are in need of guidance and support, because a lot of them were actually disappointed when they found out that in this workshop we were going to talk about like exam formats and stuff, because they had been hoping that this workshop meant they were being taught about ChatGPT. So they were actually quite disappointed that that wasn't happening. So and I actually had quite a lot of students who had no idea how it worked. And I mean, that's also something we can't really expect our students to like just know how it works just because they're younger, basically, because a lot of them just don't.
Yeah.
There's a specific question to you, Christian, whether your institution is providing the teachers with a professional edition of ChatGPT or...
We are not actually providing the professional, but we did open up for Bing. So the Microsoft Bing, it's this, what is it called? Enterprise edition is available for our staff, not our students, but our staff. So we're creating courses to use Bing in the right way. Bing is another tool than ChatGPT, so it's more difficult to use in some sense, and it can. But the good thing is that it has sources, so you can if it hallucinate. Okay, I can't speak.
If you know what you mean.
Hallucinate. No, okay. Then you can see where the source is from. And that is really an important thing in the way we do education at the moment. That source criticism, where is it from, and you can look up the source. So that's an important thing that is in Bing. Yeah.
And for us, we are actually just working on that to provide our students with an interface where they can access ChatGPT anonymously, because it actually, from a legal viewpoint, you actually have to do that, because if we want to actually do exams where people have to use ChatGPT, then they have to be able to use it in a way that actually is reconcilable with the general data protection regulation of the EU, and ChatGPT most definitely isn't. So basically, we're just talking to another university in Germany who have actually done such an interface for their students, so they can actually access this via their online campus and use it anonymously, so they don't have to put in any personal data or anything. And basically, yeah, if we want to do exams or any kind of teaching which involves the mandatory use of AI, then we have to provide a way of using it. That's another obstacle, actually. I couldn't actually do exams tomorrow integrating AI, even if I could. So because, yeah, there's some legal points as well to look at.
Yeah, we have the same thing.
So should teachers actually detect cheating using IA when they meet it in their daily interaction with students, or how should the individual teacher cope with this?
really difficult question, because if you don't have evidence, if you don't have clear evidence, then you have a problem as a teacher. A funny thing is that we have a plagiarism tool called, I don't know what it's called, but we can see now that we don't have that many what do you call it, cases in that regard. We can actually see in the teachers department that it's none or less that the use, but we have then the one who takes care of that problem now takes care of all the doubts, where teachers come and say, I have a really strong feeling that the ChatGPT has been used in this essay or assignment, but I can't prove it. Do you have some way of proving it for me? And then we say, no, we don't have any ways of doing it. So I recommend that you don't actually take this case any further.
Yeah, and
I guess we are left with some of the samples that Julia had with some of the examination formats, which allows us to, where the students should sort of argue for the answer and so on, collaborate and things like that.
Well, in our case, basically, we have such cases like that as well, Christian, that the tutors approach me or teachers approach me and say, I've got a really weird feeling here. I remember once asking the tutor, so what gives you that feeling? And she said, well, for one thing, the typeface and the color of the type is actually different at that point. I just thought, well, cheating for beginners, kind of a rookie mistake, but anyway. But yeah. Basically, we put out some guidelines where how teachers can actually penalize in cases like that, because quite often they get this kind of weird feeling because somehow the answer doesn't really answer the question, because it's very generic. Often whatever ChatGPT throws out is often very generic. It doesn't really like focus on that particular question, and it often it also mentions things that weren't in the study materials. So basically, our tutors say this doesn't feature anywhere in our course materials. So that's kind of a pointer. And also when it kind of it's often very general and it doesn't really answer what's being asked. So basically, we gave teachers some guidelines on how they can mark down assessments like that, where they just see, okay, this that's not the kind of level of work that we were expecting. So yeah, but still, I mean, I'm guessing there's a lot of cases which we don't detect because, I mean, that's also the problem with detection tools, because hardly anyone uses copy from ChatGPT just as it is, because usually you rework it, you rephrase it, you reword it. So basically, I think it would be very hard to actually detect a copy that has been reworked and rephrased and changed around. So I'm guessing there's a lot of cases we don't pick up because we just can't. So basically, and that's why I'm thinking the way forward is to kind of embrace it instead of trying to fight it, because I think we will lose. It's just not possible.
I think that's a great way of ending your presentation, Julia. Embrace it, don't fight it. So have you four letters, something, Christian, to finalize this as?
Yeah, I would also recommend taking the talks again about how do we create education, what is education, what is learning, and when are we learning? All those kinds of fundamental questions we need to be asking us these kinds of questions once again, because as you said, Julia, this is a thing that is out there. It's not coming back in the bottle, and it's really changing a lot of the educational context that we are in. So we need to take those kinds of questions in consideration.
Great. Thank you again, Julia. Thank you, Christian, and very, very good presentation, very interesting. And I can say that we have only lost 2 participants, which is some international record for online thing like this. So the audience also felt that you have provided us with interesting stuff. Thank you again. Do you have a final word, John?
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, this is the start of a conversation. This is a new thing that is with us. It's come very quickly. Education is not a field that's good to adapting very fast. So, but in this case, we need to move forward pretty quickly. And I'm certainly with Julia. I think we have to embrace it. I think we have to find ways of remembering that it's about the learning. It's about what people need to learn and how they learn, not necessarily just about whether they have passed an examination or whatever. It's that deep learning process. So I think it's very exciting. I think we'll come back to it again. And I think both Christian and Julia have given us great presentation and allowed us to kickstart the conversation. So I hope we'll come back to it. The only other thing I want to say is just to flag up my two commercials. Come and see us at OEB in Berlin in November, and keep your eyes open for details about the EADL conference in Prague in May, because this will certainly be a topic I think that we'll be discussing in a lot more detail. So thank you everybody for attending. Thank you to our organisers. Henrik, thank you very much for your moderation, and to all the people working around in the background. So thank you very much, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.